In this video, we'll learn how to add and subtract rational expressions when your denominators have opposites. So let's look at two examples together. Here I have a denominator of x minus 5 and the other denominator of 5 minus x. We notice that these are not common denominators, but they're opposites of each other. So rather than multiplying each side by the entire binomial, we can actually make this problem a bit easier by multiplying one of our two rational expressions by -1 over -1. So I'll pick this one. I'm going to multiply this rational expression by -1 over -1. And so let's look what happens to our two rational expressions when I do that. The left expression stays the same, x squared over x minus 5. I carried on my plus sign, and then my right expression becomes -25 in the numerator, and in the denominator, I distribute that -1. So I will get a minus 5 and a positive x. And you notice I changed the order so it looks the same now. So we see that we actually have common denominators once we multiplied it by -1 over -1. So now let's add our numerators together. We get x squared minus 25 over x minus 5. And now let's see if we can simplify this expression. So to do that, we factor the numerator, x plus 5, x minus 5. And we try to factor the denominator, but there's nothing to factor, so we keep it as x minus 5. I'm sorry, that's an x, not a y. And so we see that we have a common factor that can be removed. Our x minus 5s can be removed, so we get our final answer of x plus 5. Let's look at one more example together. This one's a bit more involved. Here, again, it's a subtraction problem, and our denominators are not the same. So what I'm going to do is factor my left denominator of x squared minus 9, and then I'll look at my right denominator as well. So let's do our first step. Keep the numerator the same, and let's factor this denominator into x plus 3 and x minus 3. And when I did that, I noticed that I now have an x minus 3 and a 3 minus x. These aren't the same, but they're opposites of each other. So what I'll do right off the bat for this problem is go ahead and multiply this expression by -1 over -1 before I rewrite it, and that'll get me closer to having common denominators. So I'll carry down my minus sign. I'll rewrite my numerator by distributing that -1. So I would get a negative x plus 2 over my denominator of -3 and a positive x. And so now you see that we actually have a common denominator of x minus 3. But, a common factor of x minus 3, but we still don't have an entire denominator that's common because this right rational expression still needs to be multiplied with x plus 3. And it's after I do that that I'll have common denominators. So let's go one step further and multiply these numerators together, and then we'll be able to subtract. So we keep the left expression unchanged, x plus 3, x minus 3. We carry down our subtraction sign, and now let's do our distribution. So in the numerator, we're going to have to use what's sometimes referred to as the FOIL technique to distribute all of these terms. So we get negative x times x is negative x squared. Negative x times 3 is minus 3x. A positive 2x and a positive 6. And before I go any further, I'm going to go ahead and combine these like terms. Negative 3x and a positive 2x combines to give us a negative x. Now my denominator is x plus 3, x minus 3. Now that was a bit of work, but now we finally have common denominators, so it's at this point that we're finally able to subtract the numerators. To make sure I don't make any mistakes with subtraction, I'm going to go ahead and put these in parentheses and remember that I need to distribute this negative sign. So let's start with our highest degree terms of x squared, and then let's combine our like terms. So we have negative x squared minus a negative x squared. So that's the same thing as having a plus. So negative x squared plus x squared, your x squareds eliminate. You have 0 of them. So let's move on to our x's. I have a minus negative x, and that's all that I have. So double negatives becomes a positive x. And now let's combine our constants. 4 minus 6 is negative 2. So I've combined all my like terms in the numerator. Now I write my denominator. And I factor and cancel. So there's nothing that I can factor, and there's no common factors that I can remove. So this is my final answer.